Sean Connery was a dog.
Connery has such a unique charm to him. You want to kiss him right now.
Dude, I can't take it.
Welcome back to the Magical Mandatory Min... I honestly don't know.
I was going to do it, and you decided to jump the gun.
In my mind, I thought, welcome back to
okay, not only do you have an incredible history of not doing it right, but this is week 3 in a row that you open. And you always go magical mandatory.
No, not in the row.
3 in a row. All the 3 times you've opened recently, it's every single time magical mandatory. I
thought of the right intro, and then I thought, no, that's the wrong one. I need to do the other one so that I don't mess up, and that was the right one.
All right, in the spirit of you messing up at the beginning, will you welcome the people?
Yeah, welcome back to the Wacky Wonderful Wiseworks podcast. It was my fault. It was ever since I said we need to have a thing we open up the podcast with.
Yes.
And then I don't think you've done it right a few times, but more often than not you mess it up.
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know.
You feel a lot lower.
That's what I said.
Should I pull your chair up?
You did take them.
I asked that before the podcast
and Joshua,
started.
glance at the headroom at that camera right quick. Where I know this is a little. How's the headroom? He's fine.
Am I up?
Yeah, bring down just a touch though, like just a real touch right there. That's good. That's good. Put a mic right out to the side, right there.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey, you good guys, gals, geeks, and goofballs. We're glad you're here on this Monday morning. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you want to join us on Patreon, you can do so. So you guys watched, I don't know,
Guardians of the Galaxy
Volume 3. So without spoiling, since it's not, we're not doing an official review here.
Yeah, we don't have to spoil it.
Why do we always not get a spoiler?
Because you guys watch movies, and on my week doing the podcast, like you watch a movie I haven't seen, and then you expect to come on here and just tell me all the details?
We won't spoil it. But we will say...
Look, spoil like 25% of it, but don't spoil all 100.
I'll spoil 75.
No.
I mean, I'm not spoiling any.
Okay, who cares about the spoiler? Just give what you're going to say.
My thing is about the movie. It's very much similar to the first and second in that it's like the first and second, took all the crazy and had a baby and put it into the third one.
Really?
It's a lot of the same stuff we're familiar with. So the whole movie feels like Guardians.
Yeah.
It just feels like a fever dream of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Kind of.
It's a little fever dreamy.
So
more things happening than characters.
Than character development.
Things are happening to them and they have to react to it.
Yeah.
As opposed to the characters motivating the things that happen.
I got through 70% of the movie and I was like, okay, this is not the best Guardians, but it's also not a bad movie comparatively what Disney has been doing. So I accept this as a Guardians movie, and then the last 30%, I'm like, no, this is dumb.
The ending, I think the ending fell flat.
Yeah.
I think they made some decisions with the ending that did not work. I also think they made some character development decisions that they just straight up missed opportunities.
Okay.
Yes.
Certain things, like having certain characters who are supposed to be...
Who are you talking about?
Heroic. I'm talking about Adam Warlock.
Okay.
Yes, Adam Warlock was very basic compared to what I thought he was going to be.
There was one moment in particular.
Yeah.
And it's where he's looking around and there's explosions happening and there's people in danger.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is where they've characterized him as not being evil, as being like a child, as being dumb. Well, I saw he looks around, he sees people dying, sees people in danger, and I thought this is the perfect moment for him to become a superhero.
Right.
because that's what the Marvel movies are about. It's
Yeah.
superheroes. These are superheroes who save people, who help people. And then he makes a decision which is fine. It makes sense how they characterized him. And then at the end, he sort of makes a superhero decision. But I thought he was going to become a superhero in that moment.
Yeah.
Right.
And there were several moments where something happened like that, where I was like, here's this moment for this character where it characterizes them and they just continue to do something else.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
There wasn't a lot that I hated with
Yeah.
it. I think
Is it the best Marvel film from last year and this
yes.
year?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
There was only one thing that I disliked, and it's not really spoiling much, so I will say it. Is the thing that I loved about Guardians. There was good music, and I think it was fun. It was different for when it came out, the first one. I'm not talking about the second one. The first one, it was different. It was space travel. It was adventure. It didn't have like a through line. It just was them going and doing adventures in space. And they could have short adventures and then do the next thing. And they could do something, and that could be the movie. That was fun. But the thing that really grasped me and tugged at the pulley strings was the scene where everybody is being surrounded by Groot, and he says, they're like, no, you're going to die. And he goes,
Yeah.
I am Groot. That was perfect because...
Even saying we are Groot.
Yes.
That,
Okay,
yes.
he did say that.
That kind of bothered me when he did that.
No, it felt good. It felt great.
It bothered me because for the same reasons
What I'm about to say.
of what you're about to say is because you don't need anything else. Even if he just did that and he looked at them all and said, I am Groot, you understand exactly what he's saying.
Yes, but that's always been his thing. I am Groot. I am Groot. He said,
Right.
we are Groot one time, but I am Groot, okay? At the end of this movie, there was a heartfelt moment, which I wasn't really in. It didn't drag me into it. And then Groot says, I love you guys. That was what he said, right? He says, I love you guys.
He changes it up.
And I was like, that was unneeded. He could have said, he could have done the exact same thing, said, we are Groot again.
And you knew exactly
and
what
you
he
would have
was
known
saying.
exactly what he said. But they had to say, I love you guys.
Change the script.
And
Change
it
the
changed
after
it up,
they spent-
and it wasn't
After
needed.
they
I
spent
didn't
an
like
entire movie of
Yes.
Gamora being like, how are you guys understanding what he's saying?
it. Yeah.
And then at the end, she has a moment where she kind of like, he says, I am Groot, and she understands what he says.
Yes.
And she's like, oh, I get it. I understood what he said.
Yeah.
Right? And then it messed that up.
It messed
There were-
up.
Interesting.
So the ending kind of, the ending kind of sucks. But Rocket's storyline.
The Rocket story was good.
Rocket's story was probably one of
That
one
would
of
be the
best,
only reason I would recommend someone go watch it. I think other than that, I would say no, don't really watch. It's not worth
So
it.
Bradley Cooper got a lot of voice time in this movie.
Yes, it wasn't Bradley Cooper's true voice, but yeah, it was Bradley Cooper, I think.
It was the Rocket story was some of the best storytelling I've seen.
Yeah.
But the movie also has some of the worst storytelling I've seen. It just it sometimes doesn't know when to stop.
Yeah.
It sometimes doesn't know when to. And then, the first one where the music kind of accentuates everything that's happening. And you remember the music.
Yeah.
Even the second one, I was humming and singing songs
To the
from
music.
Guardians, days after I saw the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because the music
Sticks with you.
sticks with you and it motivates what's happening in the story.
Right.
The music in this one doesn't do that.
Doesn't
It was-
motivate it.
The first, I would
There
say,
was a
like
couple
the first
songs
couple
that
songs
worked.
that worked.
But the majority of them were like, we have to put the nostalgic music in here, even though you don't
Contextually,
really...
it doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit, and it shouldn't. Yes.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff where it's like, oh man, this is Guardians of the Galaxy stuff, and then stuff where I was like, wow, this feels.
Yeah.
I like
Forced.
forced. There were some things that felt forced, and then and then they'll do it, but it was like both extremes.
Yeah.
Right.
It was like, this is not really Guardians of the Galaxy. And then Quill turns on No Sleep Till Brooklyn, and they all sort of like slowly turn and start slow-mo walking, and Gamora's like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And then they're not even saying anything.
Yeah.
And then she just like rolls her eyes and walks along. I'm like, this is very Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
And then they'll do something that's not Guardians of the Galaxy.
I just want to say one more thing. It's not really with the movie as much, and then we'll give it a rating, and then we'll be done. But Disney did a lot with this, and I wish they would stop doing this. Or it's maybe not Disney, it's just Hollywood, where they say too much, and if they just leave it very basic, it would be way better for me. Where even moments where Groot says, "I am Groot," and then Drax goes, he said this. And it's like,
exposition.
we know what he meant by "I am
Spoon-feeding.
Groot." Yes. It was like he's looking at a character and he says, "I am Groot." You know exactly what he's saying. You don't need Drax to interpret "I am Groot."
I think
in
there's
that
certain
moment.
times when you do.
Yes, but not every time.
But not every time, no.
Most of the time, you're picking up Groot is having an emotional moment with this person, and you know what it
Emotional
is.
moments, you don't need it. But like even in the first movie, Rocket was kind of his out loud voice.
Yes.
He'd be like, "I am Groot," and Rocket
But
would
now
be
it's
like,
all
"No,
of
we're
them.
not gonna, open the
That
warp
worked.
drive."
That worked.
Yeah, it worked.
All of them are interpreting for Groot now because he's been around long enough, and so it's like, come on, Groot was fun, and now you've kind of just, he's not as fun anymore.
And now Groot at the very end, the one scene with him at the very end, best Groot in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, that and Kaiju Groot. I liked Kaiju Groot when he yeah.
I would give it a 4 out of 10.
Okay, that's pretty low.
I wouldn't recommend it. I would just say it was, if you're wasting an afternoon, you're like, I got nothing else to do, let's pop this on because I liked the other ones. Do it, but I would not recommend.
I'd say I'm going to give it a 5 just because it has all the Guardian elements, but I don't think ends the Guardian story the way it should be ended.
No.
Okay, and a couple things you guys have said about the writing, with exposition, unnecessary, forced explanation of things, and then also kind of, I was saying this earlier because I actually found a podcast that was really interesting. Let's see, Pints with, wow, what is this? What is that? Aquinas?
Yeah.
Pints with Aquinas?
Aquinas. I don't know. Look, it's Aquinas.
That could be pronounced so many ways.
Right. So, but this guy, he does a really cool podcast, and he puts his podcasts on the live tab. If you're wanting to watch full episodes, the videos tabs is all clips. However, a while ago, he posted a clip where he had someone, I didn't know who it was, talking about Rings of Power, just going off on it. This is a super fan of Tolkien's work, right? And he brought up an interesting point that I don't think we ever defined, because a lot of people just watch Rings of Power and say, it's terrible, all of the decisions were wrong. And he said that is correct, because they just butchered the lore, but also most of Hollywood these days, and it sounds like similar to what this movie is, they are just following this format where things happen and characters react. Whereas good storytelling is characters make a choice because of a scenario, which
there's
leads
no
the
emotion.
plot, as opposed to the plot being something happens to a character, so they have to go in that direction.
I'll
you
say
know what I mean?
the movie does a lot of emotional-based decisions. Everybody makes emotional-based decisions in this movie. And it does that well. And it's not like it's just, we're just doing things to do things. They all the characters kind of fit within how they've been characterized in the past. But you can definitely see James Gunn trying to do certain things and Disney really pushing for certain things. And I'd say overall, I think James Gunn got the movie that he wanted, but you can still see Disney things happening.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know how much influence they had. I know that he really had the kind of plan.
I would stack this movie against Thor: Love and Thunder any day.
Oh, I'd watch this over Thor: London. I'll say this.
Obviously, you guys hated Thor: Love and Thunder.
I'll say this. I would watch this again.
I would too.
Because there's a lot of stuff I really liked about it. They do a lot of things where they set up a moment and they pay it off. It's it's really basic setup and payoff. Yeah. But they do it. But it happens, yeah.
Okay. I mean that's good. I think I'll wait for it to come out on a streamer, and then I'll watch it that way.
I think there was one joke there was a couple jokes that landed, but there was one that really landed, and it's you're in love with him.
That was funny.
That landed really well.
That was funny. Drax has a lot of,
has a lot of good moments, I would say.
Dave Bautista's coming through.
Dave Bautista be coming.
He gets close. At one point, he gets close to Peter, and he starts emoting with his face, and even through the makeup, you can tell that he's putting on just an incredible performance.
Do you think it's just?
And he's really trying to be sincere because he's trying to do analogies.
Just Dave Bautista wanting to be a more serious actor that they're giving this to him.
No, I think James Gunn saw his potential.
Okay.
I mean, we know he's super good at. We saw a Knock at the Cabin. His performance in that is awesome.
He's very good.
Very emotional. And brilliant, and so different from roles that he plays, like in Dune, and then contrast that with like the crazy, Florida man all tattooed up in Glass Onion. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Something I want to give him credit. One more of credit a thing because we are kind of knocking it a little bit. Or at least I am. I think when it comes to like romance and the relationship side of this movie, to me it felt good because it didn't feel very girl bossy, but yet nobody came together. Drex and Mantis felt like they had a thing, and he even like cried at the end, but she left, and she wanted to do her own thing.
Well, they've always sort of been like real close friends.
Yes, and he wanted to go with her, but he didn't, and he cried a little bit, and we saw that emotion, but that was good. And then the same thing with Gamora. So there was closure. Their relationship felt more like it was on Peter's side of the analogy that they give is like you jump from woman to woman like a frog on lily pads, and you need to just learn how to swim.
Nice,
right? And it felt less like Gamora needs to be her own person. She doesn't need to define herself by Peter, and it was more like Peter doesn't need to define himself by who he's in love with.
Oh, but cool.
I'm going to give them credit, and it didn't feel like, oh, girl boss, I want to just go off and have the romance. It felt like there was closure, and it felt good.
And this is about Guardians, not some other Marvel character in a Guardians movie.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it was important. Yeah. This is about the Guardians.
Oh, this movie was very much Guardians.
That would happen in real life. Like, that would happen normally.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like a movie thing.
But this movie was very... and that's the other thing. You could take all three Guardians movies and watch them outside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And you're not terribly disappointed.
And you're not going to miss too much. They do explain what happened with Gamora. And so you get that. You understand what happened.
And Avengers?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's they kind of Quill kind of like spouts it all out in one scene. So you know what happens.
Exposition dump.
Right. So you can watch these without seeing the other movies, I think.
That's probably intentional.
But if you haven't seen the Christmas special, they do say Mantis says like, "Oh, Peter's my brother."
Well, they talk about that in the second movie.
No, they never say that.
In the second movie, yes, they...
No, she says, he found me when I was a pupa, and he raised me like his own. Ooh. But then in the Christmas special, she's like...
I don't remember.
Her whole thing was...
dropping lore in the Christmas special.
No, her whole thing was, I need to tell Peter that we are related. that I'm actually one of Ego's kids.
So you're telling me they dropped important lore in the Christmas special?
Yeah.
Nice. That's
But
fun.
it was lore that everybody
already
already
knew?
assumed was like, oh yeah, they're probably related.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's our thing.
I need to make an announcement. The new fourth host for our show, Guy Buttersnaps over here.
What are you doing?
A segment for...
That was the transition?
Yeah, I was
He's trying to run your podcast.
Gee Buttersnaps.
You know...
I get you. We're talking... All right, so look.
I thought it would have been amazing if it had been Dune was your first slide.
Okay, so look. So we're gonna hit up Psych.
A fourth host. I was just trying to,
So
tee up.
we haven't.
Buttersnaps
We've
over
talked
here.
about Psych a lot on the Midnight Special.
Lavender Gumes.
We've talked about Psych a good bit on the Midnight Special.
My name is Sean. This is Sean. No relation.
But we've never talked about Psych really on main episodes, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought we should cover some information of our personal thoughts around it, and also address the situation with the Psych, the fourth movie. Okay. So they had the fourth movie set up. Peacock was ready to fund it. Everything was good, and then the actors couldn't get scheduling in place. So that kind of collapsed the whole production. That also removed the approval they had from, for Peacock to fund the script and everything. So when that falls through, then they have to go through the whole process again to get approval from Peacock. They're going to pay for it to make sure that the script is still approved, and then do the whole process again. So apparently they did all of the groundwork in the pre-production, and then it got to production, and the scheduling just made the film fall apart. So they said that they're going to pursue, hopefully not too long, the fourth movie again. They just have to go through the process. This is straight from James Roday, who does a lot of directing for the Psych, not just acting. So that's the situation with the fourth movie. What I wanted to throw at you guys, because we're big fans of Psych, the show. All right. I not a lot of people loved it, but if you're a psycho,
there's a lot of
hold
people
on.
that love Psych.
Let me finish my thought, bro. Not a ton
there's
of
a lot
psychos.
of people who liked it.
Contextually,
Yeah.
I was setting myself up to say not a lot of people like certain things close to the end of the show, like Psych the musical. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
However, I loved it. I thought it was some of the best
I
ever.
liked it.
It was all fun. And then they come out with the movies.
Both ways, the left way and the
The
right.
only song you remember.
No, I remember a lot of it.
It's the right way and the wrong way, not the
It's been a
left
minute.
way and the right way.
He cut me off. I'm gonna blame Wyatt.
Okay.
And then you have Psych the movie. Then you have, I believe it's called Psych 2 Lassie Come Home. And then the one that came out, I think, 2 years ago was It's All About Gus, or a Gus story or something, where they talk a little bit about it. And unfortunately, the show finished, and then in the movies, Lasseter, the guy who plays Lasseter, had a stroke, and so his character fundamentally changes, and they just, although he's there and they're really utilizing him, he's really struggling to do the acting thing now, which is kind of sad to watch.
I think he was in another show that was very musical.
He was. I'm pretty sure he was in a Broadway play for a
And
while.
He just and then that show didn't get picked up, and he was in the Broadway play for that show as well.
Was this before? Or?
Yeah, before.
And this was before.
Before,
and I think
yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think he's doing a lot of acting anymore, but since he played such a big role as Lasseter in Psych, they bring him back and throw him in there and just kind of help him through the process. But with all that said, there's been 3 movies. They're looking to do a 4th. Have you guys watched the movies? Have you sampled it at all?
I'm pretty sure I've watched all of them. Maybe not the last one, but I
seen
think
2 of them.
I think I've seen all of them. I enjoy it enough to take time to watch them, but I don't remember anything about the last one.
I've seen 2 of them, and boy.
All right, so this
They're
is
not as good.
Is the
They're
point?
not
Do
as
we want
good as
do
the
we want
show.
more Psych? Do we want more Psych
No.
movies?
No.
That's the question
No.
I'm posing.
I think they kind of gave us a close in a sense with the end of the show, being that
Yeah.
they moved to a different city and
Moved to San Francisco.
that was very emotional. But then they tried to do stuff again, but they're not in
Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara, and it just
They don't have the psych
work.
office.
Yeah,
they have a new psych office.
and I know there's episodes where they're not in Santa Barbara, but it didn't feel like Psych.
So you're right. There is aspects. You're really trying to build the cornerstone of Psych around Gus and Sean, and sometimes it just doesn't land as heavily as the show did. And I think when they said they were making Psych movies, I thought like, man, this is going to be like a cinematic Psych, you know what I mean? But really it's kind of a TV movie, which is the exact same style of production as the show. It's just ends up being an hour 20 instead of 45 minutes.
It feels like a TV movie.
Yeah,
it is.
Where the scenes are filmed the same, the interactions are filmed the same, like it would be filmed for a TV episode.
Right.
It doesn't feel like,
and the writing is the same as a TV episode.
It's TV show writing. It doesn't feel like the way a movie should be written. There's a clear difference between Star Trek shows and the Star Trek movies.
Yes,
They work. You can clearly see in the show, in like, you know, with the original show, it's very episodic. Dialogue is quicker, but then you go into the first one or even the second one, Wrath of Khan, which is a lot of people's favorites, and it's a very different kind of thing. It's a movie.
It's a film.
It's a film.
Yeah.
And with this,
movies for this don't.
It's
feel
TV
like that.
writing for an hour 20 instead of 10 episodes of 40-minute long episodes.
Psych the musical, I think, worked. The movies so far have not worked.
But was Psych the musical was a longer episode?
Yes.
As a part of the last season. It was almost like a last season special.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was embedded inside of the season.
But it fit in the lore of it where it wasn't.
But they really went off the rails. I mean, they had a Mary in Heaven scene.
Well, it fit between two other seasons, like where Juliet didn't know, hadn't, you know, and so people were confused. But it fit into the show. It wasn't kind of like outside of the show.
Right.
So
it backed up in time. It wasn't sequential for the season it was placed inside of.
I think the only way that another movie would really like be good and work is if they set up they focused more on the crime, and they had some character stuff in there, but they focused on the other ones didn't have as much crime because they wanted to tell the story of them, but maybe bring back like yin and yang somehow. Like,
I think that book is closed.
you think?
I think so. They dragged it on, and honestly, it was kind of a conclusion that was a bit of a letdown. You know, I felt like I wanted something more. So closing that book closing the yin yang narrative is important. I think it
Maybe
needed to happen.
a different type of yin and yang, like a serial killer.
Sure.
See, I always think of when there's this discussion of how do we keep this thing that we love going. It goes back to a lot of the show Community. Dan Harmon does a ton of commentary in the show about continuing a show. About how do you keep a show going? What are you doing?
Right.
You know, are you changing it to a cartoon? Are you continuing it with a cartoon, or are you continuing it in a dark, a darker side character thing, or are you continuing it with like a buddy cop angle?
Right.
It's finding a way to continue this show with like a spin-off.
Right.
And
okay, and another example,
spin-offs and reboots,
right,
and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what these movies feel like. It's like
sort of.
We need to make more of this thing, and I think a lot of the time you need to know when something comes to an end.
Sure, but I think it needs to be tested, all right? So a show that did this successfully, and they didn't go ahead and do movies, but was Arrested Development, all right? So they finished Arrested Development. It didn't get picked up, and then Netflix started doing original content, and Netflix funded for Ron Howard to continue like a new a new branch of Arrested Development, right?
Yeah.
And the new Arrested Development, although the structure of the stories feels a little bit more convoluted and all over the place, the humor's still there, right? And I think that still works. Whereas this, they tried to do a continuation, like you're saying, but they did it in a new format, but they kept everything else the same. So my theory is you watch through Psych, there's around 10 to 12 episodes a season, and you don't like every episode. You love a lot of jokes in almost every episode, but you don't like every episode. Doesn't matter that much. You got eight episodes in a season you mildly like or you love. You write and prep and do a whole movie that's just an hour 20, hour 40, whatever, that is following the same format. Well, you might end up just doing a movie that would be an episode that people don't like, but you've put all this energy into like this feature film. Whereas before in TV format, you can just bypass it.
What?
Yep.
Just say something.
No. I wasn't gonna say anything.
But instead you just sit there just. It looks like you're over here about to have a seizure.
No, I know what you're saying.
So it's just you invest a lot of time, money, and energy into something that
Into a
really
long
should just
episode
be.
that people aren't going to care for.
It should just be a season. Like, just if you want to bring Psych back, just give us another season. See if the audience is receptive to it. Right? Just put in the effort to give us another season.
If you're going to experiment with something, do I guess one of those reboot, rerun, spin-off things. Do a serious dramatic spin-off, 8-episode series with Gus.
Sure.
Just do something like that where it's serious, where he's working through legitimate problems, depression, something.
Josh was not interested.
If Sean and Gus are not in it, then I think they should just end it.
Well, they're always in it.
Yeah, they have to have both of them in it.
But I think it would be more enjoyable to do something like that than to do a movie where they're both in it and nobody watches it.
So here's the thing with Psych. I think
just end it then.
I think it doesn't matter what they create. There's probably a loyal 20,000
I would say
people
so.
that are diehard fans of Psych. It doesn't matter what's put out, right?
Yeah.
20 to 40,000 people. So even if it's not super successful, it doesn't matter because like Peacock, they're going to put on their streamer and it's the whole Netflix issue. You don't have to make the best thing because we're selling a library. We're not selling a movie. You know what I mean? So they can fund a movie that only a small amount of people like and really don't make much money off of it because it's just there's going to be thousands of people that enjoy this. And so it's not like a big money-making business to do Psych again.
But this isn't like a lot of the shows that people loved and then got canceled. This is a show that was on TV for a lot of years and ended.
Finished and people loved it.
Finished and people loved it.
And that's why they made the movies.
So it's more, I guess, embarrassing is not the right word.
They just don't want to see it go away. They just they ended on such a good note. They just want to parlay
it's more annoying to keep coming back.
Right.
Whereas, there's loyal fan bases to other shows that were canceled or canned and never got resolution.
Right.
And those are the ones where people are like, we need a movie. We want more of this.
We need to finish the story.
Please do something. Those ones are the ones I feel like where you're in agreement. I don't need more of this.
Right.
I got it all, and I can rewatch an entire story.
Film. And you can rewatch. How many seasons was there?
8.
9.
8?
I think there was 9.
Nope, 8.
All right, 8 seasons. We'll say. I think there's 9. We'll say 8 seasons. That's a lot of episodes. Of just Sean and Gus Gold, and you don't even have to watch the movies. But you're right. I think we all kind of agree. Psych, the movies don't need to happen. If it feels like a burden to get this thing off the ground, don't bother. Just let it be what it is. We're going to keep watching Psych. We're going to do the rerun thing. We're never going to let it die.
8.
Whatever. We're never going to let the love for Psych die. But the movies are not keeping that love here. You know, it's organic. It's built in. So you don't have to make a movie to remind us that we love Sean and Gus. That's all I have to say. So I think we are in agreement. Is that a good?
Yeah. What if they did a Arcane style 3D cell shaded super serious
Finish it.
thing
it.
with
cut the head
Sean
off.
and Gus,
Cut
and they
the
live
head
in
off.
like and they're kind of like Sherlock Holmes in steampunk San Francisco.
Here's the thing. I'm pretty sure.
It could be funny.
I'm
It'd be
pretty
cool.
sure the love for Psych was the physical humor of Sean and Gus.
Oh yeah.
And that won't translate into
I'm just
animation.
saying, if you're really gonna revamp it, go with something super modern.
Sure, but people won't like it.
You don't know that.
I know.
I feel like I could
People
write,
would like the
I could write
animation.
something that would be interesting.
People would like the animation, but it's not going to be Psych because people love Psych for these characters and how they interact with each other that wouldn't translate over animation that well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Like
I don't know.
We need the subtleties. We need the face
with
on the screen
animation.
that says, "Hi, my name is Lenny." You know, we need that kind of stuff.
I think you can do something with animation that would be close to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could give it a go, and I'll watch it to see, but
Yeah.
I don't think you could recapture
I think you
that
could.
magic.
The body language would be different,
It'd be difficult.
but it's not like nobody's ever done humor in cartoons before.
Do you think humor lands? Well, Kung Fu Panda's pretty freaking
It's
funny.
almost
Kung Fu
like
Panda.
it's almost like many cartoons started with humor.
I don't know.
Yeah, but
Looney Tunes.
It's hard. Yeah, that it started with humor though. It's not that something was live action. They went back to cartoon, or not back. They went to cartoon.
I'm just saying, I think that's a better option than continuing
Just-
to do live stuff.
But that still feels
cut off
like
the head.
that still feels like a cool experimental episode inside of a season,
Right.
Not a movie,
not a movie. Yeah.
Which they did a lot of that. They did like the Clue. They did like the horror. They did like the Teen Wolf. They did a whole bunch of genres of episodes.
They never did an animated episode, did they?
No,
That didn't start happening. I guess that didn't really work for like the cop style shows.
not necessarily. But
Yeah.
they did a lot of different fun genres of styles and themes for episodes that was kind of built around like popular movies or popular genres of movies, which was fun. And don't worry about Psych 4. James Roday, just let it drift away and we'll keep watching the show. You don't have to worry about the movie.
It's not dead. It's just
It's
over.
just over. That's it. It's
Yeah.
just
It's like Lord of the Rings.
the book's
It's-
closed.
it's
We'll
not
keep reading the
dead.
book.
Yeah, it's
We'll keep
not
reading
dead.
the book.
You just go back to the beginning and start over.
Exactly. You don't have to keep adding to the end of the book.
It's like, oh, I need more of these
It's like-
characters.
It's like, okay, imagine a book. You wrote a book and it's perfect. And then you decide to go to the end of the book and start stapling in new pages
new pages.
on the end of a
Yeah.
perfectly sealed and glued book.
And one of those characters had a stroke. I mean, serious. It's harder to write it, but
One of those kids. Yeah.
it's reality and it's tough. But because you were stapling in new pages, that is now part of the canon.
Right.
That performance has to be part of the canon now.
Because if
It's
you
in the
rip them
movie.
staples out, you rip up the good bits.
Yeah.
You mess up the book. So you got to
And then
leave it in.
and then once you put it in, you can't tear it out because then you're like, oh, but
This is a really good analogy.
he got to be in that movie,
Right.
it's with all the other characters because you want that character. You
Right.
want to see that character. It's a problem. Once you put it in, you can't take it out.
That's right.
It's
That's
a similar
the issue
thing.
Star Wars is having.
It's a similar thing with like race swapping legacy characters. Once you make a character a different race, you can't switch it back.
No.
Because then people are like, hey, racists. You're racist.
Right. You got to be careful with the race swap. You got to be careful with adding new lore, especially if your story is complete.
Yeah.
Your story is complete. Don't add to it. And I think that's one of the big issues Star Wars is having. They're adding a bunch of new lore to something that was already kind of perfect. You know what I mean? It was kind of perfect with a few rough edges.
It had some rough edges, but people enjoyed it.
People enjoyed the rose rough edges. Now people are just
They're
saying it's like a
they're
garbage
let's see
can.
what
It
happens
just
when we
stinks.
tack this on.
Right. Yeah.
More staples, more pages.
Yeah. More money, hopefully. So yeah, that's all that. So before we move on to the next segment, which we are talking about Dune, by the way, and Joshua will be happy about it. Before we do that, Joshua, give a thanks to somebody.
Thank you, Shelby. I don't even have to look at it. I know it's Shelby's week.
But you're
really confident. You're really confident.
No, he
tonight.
turned and looked at it.
Joshua shows up with a welcome to the Magical Mandatory. He also does a transition. What was the name you said?
Shelby.
No,
He tried to do a Psych transition.
Psych transition. What was the name?
Guy Buttersnaps.
Guy Buttersnaps. And then you thank Shelby without even looking. You just knew.
Born Hood.
Born Hood. All right, keep going.
That's from off the podcast. It's not funny.
Don't explain it.
Shelby, thank you for joining the Patreon, and
Keep going, Joshua.
thank you for being a patron, and we appreciate all the support you've given us. If you want to be a Patreon, go check it out. We got a lot of exclusive stuff there, and you get the podcast early and everything. Catch you there.
It's the best thing in the world to be a Patreon.
It is.
He thought war. What is it good for? He thought the lyric was Born Hood.
Instead of war.
I mean, I get it. Phonetically, like, I could see how you would make the
Joshua was
mistake.
like, we were watching a movie with a song, and it was
Born Hood.
this one character was going like, Born Hood. And we're like, the crap? What are you talking about, man?
What you
said don't
It's not
explain
as
it.
funny.
You said don't explain it, so I felt the need to explain
Yeah.
it.
He said don't explain it.
Otherwise,
I said
Yeah,
keep
but it's
going.
not funny. You can't explain a
Yeah.
joke and it's not funny.
I just did.
And
It
now if
wasn't
we
funny,
say
though.
Born Hood in future episodes,
Now people
will
get
laugh because they're a part of the inside.
I want other people to be.
We'll start doing
I want people to be on the inside,
right,
our inside.
and we'll start doing mugs that says
Born Hood.
You know, and we'll sell those on a shop.
3 white guys selling mugs that say Born Hood,
And no context
no context.
except for this episode. And that's all that matters. We're also we gotta sell a mug that says Magical Mandatory at some point, just because it's. I mean, even past the midnight special, it's lore at this point.
Magical, it's mandatory.
It lives
So-
on.
Let's talk about Dune, everybody. All right,
Oh, good picture.
let's talk about Dune. I don't have a lot of pictures, and so this is what we're looking at.
I like it.
This is from from Dune Part 2's poster. So I've had a few conversations the past few weeks where there's talk of Dune 2, you know, because it's getting hot on the internet. Dune's coming back. And I ask people, hey, what'd you think of Dune 1? You know, Dune Part 1. They're like, didn't watch it. Now, there's a handful of reasons. Some people said, it's not my thing. Some people said, I was told it was a complex story, so I need to read the book first. That's understandable, but you don't have to. So I thought we should talk about reasons why people should watch Dune.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not just read Dune, but watch Dune. That's something a lot of people aren't talking about. Why should you watch Dune? And there's a whole bunch of reasons. I think we should share some thoughts on this.
I would say my number one reason is nobody read Star Wars.
Yeah.
You watched it and you got to know the story. People got to know the story and got to know the characters through watching it.
Right.
I feel like a lot of what we do nowadays, because everything is a reboot or a remake or a redo, is it's like, what is this based on and how do I learn more? Or you could watch the movie and try to pick up on context clues.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about movies is they give you context if you pay attention.
Yeah. This one, I would say there's portions of this that give unnecessary exposition, and sometimes they don't give you exposition that you need.
Yeah,
But-
like in the tent, there was one scene where Paul Atreides and his mom's in the tent, and you know he gives her a little bit of water from his suit, and he says, "Sweat and tears." It's like we knew that. They said earlier it
Right.
collects bodily fluids,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but keep going.
It's I think the movies have context clues. I think you can watch the movie and understand exactly what's going on.
Yes.
I don't think the movie was confusing because nobody knew. You don't know what's happening. I think it's confusing because people start thinking, what? I don't have any basis for what's going on.
Right.
if you pay attention, the story tells you what's happening.
And the story's good, so you can watch it a second time and fill in the gaps.
It's a very basic story.
Yeah, it's not that complicated.
No.
You just have to understand once you watch it through one time, you understand the world and you understand like the main characters. And you understand like the flow of events. You watch it through the second time and everything kind of falls into place. All the stuff you missed, the details that fills in all the holes and all the gaps. So you should watch Dune for those reasons. It is simple. You didn't watch Star Wars. That's how you put it. Or you didn't read Star Wars.
Read Star Wars. Well, people read it afterwards, but...
Right. I was actually something similar to that. My thought was, this is a story that was the inspiration for Star Wars. One of the inspirations for Star Wars. And so if you want to see some concepts that Star Wars was built upon, which became more of an iconic story that was globally loved, this is the story. I mean, this is like one of the main life-giving roots that Star Wars was built upon, which that's almost like history books in some way when it comes to story writing and lore and concepts. I mean, concepts of the Chosen One, concepts of Leto Atreides wanting to be a pilot, you know?
Yeah.
There's through lines that you see, just mirrors or characters that are very similar in Star Wars, and it's all over the place. And I think it's fun Easter eggs to just kind of pick up on.
Some of the aspects you might enjoy. If you enjoy filmmaking, this is a very visually pleasing movie.
100%.
Beautiful.
Okay.
This is filmed by literally one of the best cinematographers in Hollywood working right now.
Beautiful movie.
Greg Fraser. And also just the aesthetic choices of Denis Villeneuve, the director. He does like this, how would you describe it? There's a gothic tone to it, but a almost mysterious,
ethereal,
large-scale world building. That's you saw it, a different version of, but you saw kind of it in Blade Runner. You know, it wasn't as much in Prisoners, but the dark quality of the story in Prisoners leaks into stories like this, which creates a very interesting voice. I mean, like all the scenes with the Bene Gesserit, the heaviness of those scenes reminds me of certain scenes with Prisoner with Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman. That simple story from like a subdivision or whatever.
Yeah, I'd say if you're going into it with that in mind, visually, I think you're going to enjoy the movie.
Definitely.
If you like dramas, it's a dramatic movie.
One of the most epic scores, Hans Zimmer.
Epic score.
And the cool thing, what Hans Zimmer's approach to this movie, was create music that this world would listen to. So he kind of abandoned a lot of structural concepts that he would build for a normal film score, and he built a score that might be enjoyed or played by cultures of a multi-planet universe. And it's fascinating, and each culture has its own unique vibe and style, and you know, there's a lot of voices there too, but like not languages, just sounds.
I mean, no, it does have a lot of depth, and it does have a lot of like politics and backstory to it, and very in depth with the story in the book and all that. That is interesting to get and dive into the lore of it. Yes.
Lore. So lore reasonings. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good
It's complex lore. It's thoughtful.
Good lore.
It's thoughtful.
So if you're going into the movie thinking maybe the lore is too complex, maybe go read some portions of the book. I don't say go read the whole book, but read a snippet from the book, get kind of a taste of it.
Well, I mean, if someone's a fan of lore that's similar to like Lord of the Rings, your world building, they're going to find enjoyment out of this lore as well.
And there's so many YouTube videos you can watch.
Yeah, we've done a
on
few.
This kind of stuff.
I mean, it's all over the place.
To tell you who the characters
articles,
are.
fandom, websites, all kinds of cool stuff.
I would say watch the movie so that you can see who the characters are, who the families are, what the politics are going on. Then watch YouTube videos about the histories and everything.
Right. It's
if
also
you're not somebody who likes to read the books.
Okay, so there's another aspect of this with the action. So it's sci-fi, obviously. So there's action, nature. There's wars. There's fighting, and some people just tune in for that. You know what I mean? And so this does have there is a more of emotional storytelling side, and at least in part 1, I think in part 2 we're going to get a lot more war, a lot more action in that way. But we still get these epic battle scenes, which if that's also your thing, I think that works as well. And I personally enjoy the battle scenes and action, I guess. Is that a correct word?
Yeah,
action for it. I think I appreciate it more in this style of filmmaking as opposed to just kind of like, I don't know, what we see often.
It has a purpose.
It has a purpose. It's also very stylized. Which, what do you think about the stylized nature of action scenes? Because you've had an issue with hyper stylization in the past.
Well, the action in this isn't, I guess, what you would consider stylized action. It's pretty standard, like hand-to-hand combat type stuff.
Yeah, with hand-to-hand stuff. But then you also
some
have
sci-fi elements. But
Yeah.
there's nothing like you would see in the Kingsman movies, which is just kind of ridiculous.
It's more just like knife fights.
Yeah. It's purposeful. The fights have meaning.
But also even just on the large scale, like when they're doing the bombing at night, you know, from the sky, and the initial attack starts and they destroy all their warships, that is extremely stylized and very artistically composed and lit in a way to create an atmosphere. So yeah, you are getting the close-up hand-to-hand just choreography, and that is thoughtful based on the characters and based on the houses and everything. There's a lot of details to it. But also just with the nature of the world itself and how Denis Villeneuve shows his action. You know, it's a very specific way, at least when I think of it. I don't see it like other films. It has a unique voice to it.
You know, you don't usually think about what the action is going into one of his movies.
How do you mean?
You're almost not watching it for the action scenes like you would with something else.
It's like it's there, but that's not the main reason.
It's part of the story. Action happens as part of the story. It doesn't just happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because
what I'm saying.
what's an example of a movie that fighting and action is the part of the story without something obvious like Fast and Furious? You know what I mean?
I feel like Fast and Furious is the perfect example of
Or I was going to say
action
John
for
Wick.
action's sake. I would say John Wick's more pointed, but I would agree. Action for it's literally guy kills my dog so that we can do action.
Well, is there anything in the sci-fi world that kind of is more just actions for action's
It would
sake?
be like Marvel stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like we need to have a fight scene. We need to have space battles, stuff blow up here.
Right.
I mean, Alien.
I would say there's one scene from Guardians, the third one that we watched. They have a fight scene in a hallway,
Yeah.
and then they say this whole ship is crawling with aliens and people trying to kill us. Have one fight scene in a hallway and then no more resistance.
It's what I was saying
That's
earlier.
action for action's sake.
Yeah, and honestly,
It was a cool scene. I enjoyed the scene.
well, from your guys'
immensely.
perspective, are you honestly watching a lot of movies for action? I feel like
No.
there's so
Not
much.
these movies.
Well, not these movies, but just movies in general. Like you'll watch John Wick.
I watched John Wick
That's a very specific purpose
for
for
the
that.
action.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but like these Marvel films, right? You're not watching for action anymore, are you?
No,
Because it all looks the same.
at the beginning, the action was unique. It was Iron Man doing something interesting.
Thor doing something interesting.
You know, they're all using their powers in interesting ways,
Mm-hmm.
and being superheroes, and that's what the action was for. But then it got formulaic,
Yeah, and
and then you see the same action over and over again, and then Daredevil comes out, and he's doing interesting stuff, and his action feels purposeful. Now it just kind of feels all cookie cutter, same old, same old.
I think it happened around Black Panther when they had these rubber characters, full CGI and climax fight scene.
Yeah,
completely CGI,
and
that's
then
wild.
Thor: The Dark World tried to do something, a little bit more emotional, and got a lot of people don't like the Dark World movie.
Well, a lot of people don't like Love and Thunder.
It turned it into
Thor.
Ragnarok and Thor: Love and Thunder.
Right.
People were like, "We need wacky Thor. We want more wag." I've even said I wanted him to be more lighthearted,
A little bit.
I wanted more space adventure, less drama thing. But
I never said that.
I
like the drama side
I
of it.
think you can have drama and space adventure.
Do you think that with Gore the God Butcher, like the way his story ended, that was like they were trying something emotional that wasn't?
They were
just
trying, but they weren't getting it.
They weren't landing with it.
Yeah, if they had taken a more dramatic and less, cartoony comedy, you can there is a middle ground. It's not all Dune or Guardians of the Galaxy as far as sci-fi goes. One's wacky, one is drama. There is a middle ground. I think Star Wars kind of walks that line.
It does.
Of having fun and
Depends
being,
which Star Wars movie.
having fun and being like emotional.
Right.
Whereas this is clearly an epic, a drama epic.
Yes. And so actually, I'm similar to Star Wars with this. So you have a specific fighting style with the Jedi. Use specific weapons based on specific abilities, and they train a specific way, right? It's like a warrior that's a unique warrior. It's the same kind of with the Fremen in some ways, because they use a knife that comes from the sandworms, the teeth of the sandworms, and they have a very specific style of fighting that's based around, ancient generations of living in the desert and cultivating them as people and their thoughts and their religions and everything. And each house has their own warriors. So you have, who are the warriors that fight for the Empire?
Sardaukar?
The Sardaukar, yeah. So they are more just like the hardest of the hard warriors, and they're just built tough, similar to the Harkonnen.
Tough.
Yeah, similar to the Harkonnen. They're just tough for tough's sake.
The Harkonnen are more cruel.
But it's like just toughness. And then you have
again with the lore, all of these families have had like war history.
and they all have their own way of doing warfare, and their own way of doing battle tactics and different avenues. And I think that's cool because there's detail to the action, there's detail to the warfare, and so I think it's just it adds to the story in a way that's a lot more complex than even something that's as on the nose as Jedi. You know what I mean? Jedi is like everyone kind of does warfare the same. You got blasters.
Blasters. Where all of our ships are really close together in space for some reason.
Yeah.
Why in space are these ships so close together?
And then then you got.
I've read books where the ship combat is like light years away from each other. It's like naval warfare.
Right.
It's interesting. How they have to like. It's like, we got to anticipate missiles that are coming from so far away, and they go by so fast, and we got to almost anticipate. Oh, that's space warfare.
And then thrown in the middle of that, you have this like religious group that battles with swords. You know what I mean? So but it's like one unique thing, whereas in Dune, each house has its own unique thing.
And you have this one religious group that sees that are searching for a prophecy.
Right.
So
they're not sure if they believe in it or not. You know what I mean?
Oh no, they believe in it. They're the ones
skeptical.
They're the ones that have to bring it about. It's almost like self-fulfilling.
Yeah.
It's self-fulfilling prophecy.
So it's like if someone tells you there's a prophecy, then you're going to, through your actions, subconsciously make it happen.
No, their whole thing is we are making this thing.
We're going to do it because it's supposed to happen.
It's called a selective breeding program.
But that's with the Bene Gesserit. Not with the Fremen.
The Fremen are their prophecy comes from the Bene Gesserit as well.
Yes, the Bene Gesserit are the chess players.
Yeah,
the Fremen are chess pieces.
Right, and it's a lot of religion stuff in this that I think is poignant.
Right, and with all that said.
With all of that said,
overall, they're really striving to make this a quality film, which is different than there's only a handful of people really trying to make really good films right now. And we've named them constantly on this podcast.
Yeah.
But Denis Villeneuve with this series, most of the things that Greg Fraser that he's involved with are doing really good, like the Batman and part 1 and part 2 of this show. There's only a few that are really trying to make extremely good films that are worth going to the theater to watch, that are worth the experience, and I think you should just watch it for that reason. There's really only probably 3 or 4 of them a year.
That's the biggest reason is they're making these to be movies that are worth going to the theater to see. Mm-hmm. And we talked about Guardians. Is it worth going to the movie theater? Maybe for some people, but probably not for everybody.
Yeah.
These movies are worth going to the movie theater to see, and so that I think would be a big plus if you're thinking about watching the first one. Watch it so that you can go to the movie theater to see this one.
Right. And also similar to Chris Nolan, they're filming part 2 100% IMAX film. So that means it is IMAX approved.
Yeah.
You can watch it in IMAX.
They're making
true
it for
IMAX
you to
experience.
see it in the theater.
Right.
We saw was that a new Oppenheimer trailer that we saw?
No, I think it's the one that you guys reacted to last.
Okay. It didn't feel, it felt new.
It
felt
Oppenheimer is coming. That's going to be exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I was just watching the trailer,
Murphy
having
is
just a
good.
good time.
Yeah.
What, for Oppenheimer?
For Oppenheimer.
The one that we've already seen a few times?
I don't know. It
the
felt
one with
new.
the ticking in it, right?
No, it did not have
It didn't
ticking.
have ticking.
No ticking.
Well, I know there's a, what is it, the one we watched on,
I don't think so.
on Reddit?
I don't think so. I think this is a different trailer.
Well, Oppenheimer, they've been keeping everything close to the chest as far as
good,
stuff.
though.
They have their own things showing to you in theater that's not released online. And they'll take you down if you try to find it and put it online.
Mm-hmm.
So Oppenheimer, you might have seen something unique, and I haven't seen it yet because you guys went to the theater.
Could have been a new trailer.
Could have been.
Did you guys see what Cillian Murphy talking about working with Chris Nolan?
No.
He put out, there was a whole, it was like a paragraph or 2 of him just talking about, it's like, I told Chris, anytime he wants me to be in a movie, call me. He's like, I love working with him. I love being on set. This is the kind of stuff. He makes the kind of movies I want to be in.
Right.
And it was a really good, 2 or 3 paragraphs of him talking about his experience working on this. And it made me even more excited for
How much stuff has he been in with Chris Nolan? He's been the Scarecrow for 2 Batman movies.
Mm-hmm. No, he was
The
in the
first
third.
one. Yeah, he was in the third. He was in a small role second and third.
He's kinda
and
like
a
the
big role in
judge
the
guy.
first. He was in Inception.
Mm-hmm.
He was the guy that was being incepted.
Yep.
Incepted.
Incepted.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's it.
That's it. I said it confidently, so that's it.
You did.
Freaking, and what else? That might be it besides Oppenheimer.
I don't.
Yeah.
That might
that's
be.
all I can think
He wasn't
of.
in Interstellar at all. I don't think.
He wasn't in Prestige.
Not Prestige.
Wasn't in Memento.
Mm-mm.
Wasn't in Tenet.
No.
That was it.
Yeah.
But he's in Oppenheimer, so that's going to be
Lead. He's the lead.
his lead. This is his first lead Chris Nolan film, and he's going to blow it out of the water.
There was a lot of big names. I
Oppenheimer?
kept noticing in that trailer.
There's a lot of
big
people
names.
in Oppenheimer.
What other people that we haven't mentioned yet that you noticed?
in Oppenheimer?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Because like a few weeks ago when I did the Oppenheimer versus Barbie, we did the undeniable question. The cast is undeniable.
Oh man.
Do you change based on?
I don't think we mentioned it enough, but Emily Blunt is in there.
Yeah.
She's solid.
That's right. We never talk about
Yeah.
Emily Blunt being in Oppenheimer.
She's
She's one of the best female actors in the market
RDJ
right now.
is in there. I saw the kid
Careful,
from.
she did Mary Poppins.
That doesn't matter.
She did Mary Poppins Returns.
Well, Jude Law did Peter Pan.
Jude Law did Peter Pan.
Russell Crowe did Noah.
Okay, let's be
Everybody's
honest.
got a bad one.
Let's be honest. If you're gonna get a person to play Mary Poppins, Emily Blunt's a good freaking pick.
She's a good pick.
Good pick.
Good
I
British,
guess.
like bubbly lady. Really good. Good pick. Good all around pick.
I don't know the name of the guy who plays Huey from The Boys. I saw him in there. Just good stuff in that trailer. You need to watch the trailer.
The new one.
The new that one that we saw at the theater.
You probably can find it online somewhere.
Good.
It's
Even
probably on Reddit.
Yeah.
Right now.
Well, if it's
unless
out
till
in the
they take
movie
it down.
theater, it should be online pretty soon.
Yeah, well, not necessarily, because remember there's the IMAX trailer that we watched on Reddit, and then we tried to upload our reaction. It got blocked, and then it got removed from Reddit like 2 days later because they found that someone posted it on Reddit. And Reddit doesn't have the copyright thing that YouTube does, so it takes a while if you upload it to Reddit. But they find you, and they'll get rid of it. So I don't know. This is probably a similar situation. It's probably online, but it's going to be removed.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's meant for just the theater experience right now.
I have to pee.
All right. We got 2 more segments.
I know. That's
All right,
why I'm
let's
calling it
Take a
now.
break. Okay, going into the third segment. We don't have to talk about this too long, but I want to kind of cover for our own perspectives.
Okay.
An interesting topic, and it is religious related. So the main idea is actors actors who are Christians in Hollywood. Okay? There's a lot of actors that profess Christ, belief in Christ, right? Just to name a few, I mean, obviously you got Chris Pratt.
Yes.
You got Denzel Washington. You got
Okay.
Justin Bieber. He's not really an actor, but he's acted in a few things. All right. Selena Gomez, she's doing less music, more shows these days, right? Carrie Underwood, she's a music star.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, though, that profess Mark Wahlberg,
Yes.
Sean Austin.
Yeah.
Who's that dude who played on the 18 Kids movie? They got not Cheaper by the Dozen, the other one. Yours, Mine, and Ours. The newer one.
Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid. He's a Christian. There's a lot of people.
Mr. Quaid.
The guy that was on Friday, who's not doing a Friday
Chris
2.
Tucker.
Chris Tucker. There's a lot of people who are
Mr.
actors
Tuck.
that are in Hollywood. Some of them are in Hollywood. Some of them have left Hollywood
Yeah.
because they profess to be Christians. So the problem, I think there's a scenario that I think Christians always are talking about is like, how can an actor be in Hollywood, deep in Hollywood, and be accepted by Hollywood like Chris Pratt has? Do some of the movies and roles that are questionable and conduct themselves in a manner that are questionable? What's the dilemma here? And I want to hear your guys' thoughts. I think this is an interesting topic to get into. Because it is a dilemma. It really is. Because, you know, you look in Passengers. We had a half butt cheek sex scene with Jennifer
Yeah.
Lawrence
With
Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
But he, on his Instagram and in any personal avenue that he puts online, he's very open about being a believer in Christ and going to church. And he has a church he goes to. He whenever his pastor writes a book, he says, "I'm reading my pastor's book." You know what I mean? So, and he's always on Easter and stuff. He's always posting pictures of crosses and stuff at his farm. So, that's a dilemma, you know. And not to say that necessarily cursing is a sin. Some
Yeah, 'cause
circles it is.
He drops the F-bomb in Guardians.
Yeah, no, he curses a lot for his movies. I don't know if he curses a lot. If he curses a lot in real life.
What did what part was that on?
Open the door. He said, just open the door.
I don't know if he curses a lot in real life, in his normal life, his personal life. But I mean, he's doing a lot of cursing for his roles. So, and this is just like because he's super popular right now, and he's also a Christian. You can add anybody to this list. Denzel Washington.
He's
all
also
these
gotten hate though. I know
He does get a lot of hate.
that someone at my work said they didn't like watching Chris Pratt stuff because of that.
So he gets the
more hate than you think.
the Christian stiff arm from a lot of people.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call that persecution. I would call that more of a stiff arming, because it's not. It's like maybe verbal persecution.
Yeah.
I think there were people who were review bombing Mario Brothers because they don't like his religious stuff.
Yeah.
And so even if, all right, so then that's interesting. I want to tackle that as well. So if there's the dilemma there, what are you guys' thoughts on the dilemma? Also mixed with, what are your thoughts on people who are anti-Christian actor? That's pretty wild too. And almost these questions, they aren't opposites, but it's like, one is like, how does an actor who's a Christian handle it? And one is, how are people who are just trying to watch someone do an acting job so critical because of their personal beliefs? You know what I mean? What are your thoughts on this? Surely you have thoughts.
I mean, it's always been interesting for like celebrities. People want to get into their lives, their drama, and almost like you see that with every interview. And this is not religious, but they're like, "Who you be dating these days?" or something like that, because they want to know.
Is that a black guy?
I don't know. I wasn't doing like a person.
Okay.
You said who you be dating.
Who you be dating these days?
Except it was more like, who you be dating these days.
I thought it was a good impression.
Hey.
Keep going.
Keep going.
So everybody wants to get into like celebrities' lives and see what they're doing, their drama and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think if they're a good actor, why does it matter? Why does it matter?
I have the same take. I mean,
well,
especially from...
To an extent. I mean, are they Ezra Miller?
Well, I don't think Ezra Miller professes Christ.
I mean, but
I think Ezra Miller is in fact a criminal.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's different.
Different kind of.
Whereas
That's right.
Ezra Miller professes certain pronouns.
yeah.
I don't know. I haven't read too much up on that. I don't know what his, they pronouns. I don't know what his pronouns are.
Right.
I was trying to use the. I'm not good. at it.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. You don't have to be good at it.
But I think that's different. That's in a similar vein.
Yeah.
If that's part of your personal life, that shouldn't, the same way that shouldn't affect how you see, what he does in his as a character.
Yeah.
Right? Character work is like, it's a good performance. It's emotionally and physically and like everything sound.
Mm-hmm.
Personal life doesn't matter as much as, Ezra Miller's out there committing crimes. So if you're a Christian and you're out there committing crimes,
we're taking multiple things into account,
right?
Not just that you're a
but
criminal.
I would
also,
agree with what you say. It shouldn't matter if your performance is good.
So then the thought going into the dilemma for them personally, all right, how do you accept roles, and maybe like where do you kind of draw the line and say, well, I don't agree with these people who's taken these roles, and how does a Christian, in your opinion, conduct themselves in Hollywood?
I think anything that falls under what you, I guess, morally don't want people to see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? So, okay, a shadowy sex scene between these characters that are alone for the rest of their lives on a ship. It's like, yeah, that works for the character, but you don't want to see. You may not want your character to do something extremely graphic or say something extremely graphic that goes against your personal beliefs.
Okay.
Right? I think there is a line that Chris Pratt probably won't cross.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's not going to be a brutal rape scene.
Right.
For any of his characters.
Probably not.
I guarantee if they say, here, your character is doing this, he's going to say, no, I'm not going to do that.
But don't you think a exposed butt sex scene with Jennifer Lawrence isn't already crossing a moral line for Christian standards?
Probably.
Do you think? Okay, and I personally don't think
probably.
I don't think cursing like the F word and all that is actually really crossing, because I think that's up for debate. However, if you say like GD, that's taking it
Here's
in
the
vain.
other
I
thing.
think that is crossing the line.
Number one, they're not having sex, and
Not in real life.
arguably, obviously, he's not raping anybody
Right.
in that scenario.
Yeah.
But they're not having sex, in real life.
Right.
and-
He is showing his butt on camera. However, in humor scenarios, I'm okay with it.
And it works for the characters.
Right.
This makes sense for these characters
Yeah.
who haven't openly professed Christianity. So I think he's probably like, yeah, this makes sense for the characters. That's probably fine versus the other scenario.
Personally, I would have, if I was Chris and I'm, being
Chris.
wanted for this role. So you can make few, but you do have the option to make a couple demands. I would say, maybe can we just go just torso? You know what I mean? Like side profile torso.
I mean, maybe,
or
but
be like,
but
we'll play footsies. I'll do some footsie action.
I'm sure that somebody, was like, oh, Chris, there's going to be a sex scene. He's like, a sex scene? And he's like, with Jennifer Lawrence?
Okay.
All right.
I mean, yeah, honestly.
Do I get to show my butt?
Yeah. But I don't know. So personally, there are people that aren't like Chris that have chosen to take a very strict stance. I mean, look at someone like Kirk Cameron.
Yeah.
He left Hollywood
Yeah.
because he became a Christian. And he's only done Christian projects since, right?
And even like in some of the Christian films that he did, he would only kiss his wife on screen.
Yeah. So there was like in Fireproof, it's a story about marriage. So at the end, they wanted to have a beautiful kissing scene.
And there's only one
but
kissing scene.
he
in the whole
wasn't
movie.
going to kiss the actor. So they silhouetted it, and they just doubled the female actor
With his
with
wife.
his actual wife. So the kiss happens in shadow, and you can't
Yeah.
make out who's the person.
That's a weird argument. It's like, I get it.
There's all
I get
spectrum
it.
of this.
I understand. It's like, I really don't want to kiss this other person.
because it's not my
It's
wife.
like, I get it. I'm acting, but also, I don't want to do that.
Okay.
That's understandable. But I think this is, I don't want to sound like an idiot.
So go ahead, say it.
I think a lot of people see Christianity on a spectrum.
They do. Yes. I would 100%
Kirk
agree.
Cameron versus Chris Pratt on a bell curve.
Okay. So Christian guy who does mild sex scenes and curses a lot in his films versus Kirk
I wouldn't
Cameron
say curses
who
a
won't.
lot. Curses every now and then.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's been a few films that he's cursed quite a bit. I don't think personally.
Are we
he
saying like
views cursing as a problem?
Are we saying like?
No. Here's the thing. I said it before. I'll repeat myself. I don't think like those, what we consider hard language, as really that. I think it's debatable to call that.
Oh
a sin.
yeah.
I think it's more like saying Jesus Christ or saying GD.
Yeah.
I think that's
In a
more
negative connotation.
of where
Blasphemous.
blasphemy comes
Right.
in.
Well, I
that's where the
think
problem is.
using the F-bomb. There's an argument for it.
Sure.
I think there's an argument, a hard argument for it. Of
But it's not as clear.
It's not as clear as some of the others. Yeah,
Sure.
no, I would agree. But I think on that bell curve,
Okay.
there's
Good
not.
analogy.
I think Denzel Washington's right at the top of the bill. Because he
What's
does
at the top? I'm
he
just
does
trying to get
violent
this
and he does
analogy.
mild cursing.
No, Denzel does hard cursing.
Okay, he does hard
Yeah.
cursing.
and hard
Yeah.
violence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you seen
so
Training
violence-
Day?
Have you seen The Equalizer?
I have seen The Equalizer.
Training Day.
Okay.
But it has been a
Training Day.
minute.
Training Day.
I don't think I've seen Training Day.
Training Day.
Okay, so all right. Where would you put Denzel Washington? Beyond Chris?
I would say a little beyond Chris, but
really? So the bell curve's further down the road. Chris ain't on the other end.
Yeah. Also,
I don't know. I don't want to rank where people are. I don't know where they are.
I'm not
outside
saying
the screen.
I'm saying the bell curve is an imaginary thing
The
that I
spectrum.
think a lot of people. The spectrum is. I don't think there should be a spectrum,
Okay.
but I think if this is what he's pursuing as an actor, he I'm sure has his own line, and that he won't cross, and so I think it's kind of up to him.
Right.
If he can, I guess, justify how this fits within his faith, and he is a Christian.
Yeah.
That is for him to practice his faith in that manner.
He's practicing his faith
in the manner he sees as correct.
Fit. Yeah.
All right, that makes sense, and I agree with you. So, looking at it from a different perspective, the Hollywood system is very anti-Christian.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of people who are Christians a part of it. And in a lot of ways, like you're saying, even people outside of it don't want Christians in Hollywood because they don't like the fact that they're being entertained by people who believe in Christ.
Yeah.
So, do you think that is going to... It's already a dilemma. It's already like a rub, right? And the fact, even with Chris, how people were hating on him, and it took like almost every person who's acted with him in a Marvel movie to like come to his defense and be like, he's a great guy, because I think they tried to cancel him or something.
They did.
And it was really messed up. I mean, it took Robert Downey Jr. and a bunch of people to defend him. However, the Hollywood system doesn't like Christians. Is it even going to be possible to be a Christian and get work in the future, like we continue going down this road?
Only time can tell.
It shouldn't be an issue.
It shouldn't.
But it's Hollywood to make that decision. We're talking about a lot of executives that definitely probably do not profess faith in Christ.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
it's gonna. We already see it. There's personal biases in everything that is made nowadays.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way. We should look at it in the same way that we look at, sexual identity. Nobody's like, oh, I can't. Maybe some people can't watch The Lord of the Rings because of Sir Ian McKellen's sexual identity.
Sure.
But it's as an actor playing a character, he's doing an incredible job.
Yeah. And honestly, Sir Ian McKellen, it doesn't matter that he's gay. He's a really awesome dude, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure he's really kind in person.
He's a really probably great person.
Or
he just
maybe he's not kind in person.
Maybe not.
But we know that.
He got knighted, though.
Christian Bale's like yelling at people on set.
Right.
It's like we all people talk about separating the artist from the art. I think you have to do that a lot of time, and the problem is the people that are making a lot of the art possible, not necessarily the people that are making the art.
Right.
But the people who are making the art possible, the executives and
people with money.
The people with money are making sure that people's personal biases and identities and politics are being inserted. Yeah. People who are not in charge of making the movies possible. People just, doing whatever. The creatives,
okay,
that aren't
the DP,
right? The executives are allowing them to push whatever they want to push.
Yeah,
and
so like the directors you talking about?
I'm talking about anybody, probably mostly writing.
So writers, producers, directors.
Anybody who's making stuff. It seems like it's more for the ideology stuff.
Right.
But that wouldn't come into play if the executives weren't allowing that to happen.
True.
And in fact, the executives are the ones who are pushing.
Yeah, they do be pushing.
And although
I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't enjoy it if people were pushing for entirely religious or Christianity or right-wing ideologies in movies. If the roles were flipped.
I mean, we have that, and it's outside of the Hollywood system. It's called PureFlix, and it's terrible.
I'm sure. Yeah, a lot of people aren't going to enjoy that.
No, but they like Netflix as a studio. and all the studios, but especially Netflix, they love pushing the acceptance of every single belief system or identity or kind of woke
the wild ones,
the crazy ones, and even ones that are super strict just aren't based in Christ, like Muslims and stuff.
Yeah,
Are you saying the wild ones, or is that a movie?
not where the wild things are.
Oh, I thought you were talking about a specific movie.
No.
just the wild belief systems.
Yeah.
They're very happy
but you're
to
right.
push
Any
that.
belief system other than Christianity.
Well, they're putting a lot of Christian stuff in the films, but it's always from the negative or just these are kind of the dummies of the story. You know what I mean? These are the gullibles of the story.
Yeah.
Like just always a negative
Or the evils.
Or the evils. There's a lot of
The
Christian
baddies.
villains. You know, I mean, there was a whole Last of Us episode where they decided to make a pedophile cannibal also a religious Christian leader. It's like, that's crazy, man. You didn't have to do that bit. That's very insulting to people who believe in Jesus because we're not cannibals
Because you
or
wouldn't
pedophiles.
because you wouldn't do it to a Muslim person.
Oh no, that would be blasphemy. They
That would-
couldn't.
yeah.
That literally wouldn't happen.
They're scared of getting blown up.
I mean, it might happen.
All right, I got to stop putting the location of our studio on these videos.
Never put the location of our
No,
studio on the
I
videos.
put the city in there. I don't put
Oh,
our
okay.
address. Not our address.
Come find us.
Somewhere in the city. And so the dilemma is, I think personally,
I don't think we don't.
you made a good point.
Yeah.
He is doing what he believes is in accordance with his faith that doesn't violate it. And his standard might be different because I believe he did come to faith later in life.
Yeah.
So he wasn't raised necessarily, I don't believe, in a
Southern Baptist Church.
Southern Baptist church. Exactly.
Woo!
So his lines are
that's a tough
just
way
gonna
of
be
life.
placed differently, you
Yeah.
know? And it is ultimately the good thing about Christianity is that it is very personal. And so your conduct you answer to directly to God. That's what you believe. And other people aren't necessarily held accountable for your conduct.
No,
so
not
that
for
means,
your conduct.
That means
no.
it's between you and God. You know what I mean? So
And we mentioned Denzel a bunch. And
Yeah.
I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't, say, thoughts and prayers for Denzel.
what's going on with Denzel?
He had a stroke.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had a stroke and has been in the hospital for. I don't know if when this comes out if he'll still be in the hospital, but when I was looking at it today, they were saying he was still in the hospital.
There was
I
a
didn't
year
hear
ago
about that
that someone
either.
at work was doing an interview piece and they interviewed Denzel. I was able to
Yeah?
film that. Yeah.
You interviewed? I mean, you.
It was over a video call. Like they put him up on
Oh.
a screen, but he was talking to him and I
been
was
so
filming
cool.
the screen that he
It would
was
have been
talking
cool
to.
to see him in
Yeah.
person.
It would be. And he has been to the studios that I
Yeah,
work
he
at
was filming
in
a
person.
movie and he had a
They only
heart
do
attack or a stroke or something.
That sucks, man. But anyways,
Short film?
that's right. Before we finish, there's a short film I want to review really quickly. It's called Yana. Yana. This is a Cherokee word for bear, and it doesn't have a gender specific. Some languages are gender specific, like Spanish. Everything's either male or female. This is not defined as either male or female. It's just bear. Period.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you guys saw in the film how that played into it because I didn't really see that.
I did not either.
So I don't know why this title was chosen. I thought there was real significance to it, which there might be.
You have a picture?
Yeah, I got a handful of pictures. So this is an animated short. It's about 5 minutes long.
It's a beautifully animated short.
And
I
it's
will
almost
say.
like a 9 frame rate kind of
Yeah.
film. It's very kind of like bop 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 bop. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Very
like
bop, 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 bop.
it's not 24. You can see you can almost see individual pictures. I'm sure it wasn't created that way, but it was designed that way. And I think that's really cool.
This is interesting because he makes a decision, and it's this short film clearly there's commentary here about the native peoples and about the colonialists,
Yeah.
but I think more than that. It's about a man who makes a decision.
Right.
And who has made lots of similar decisions.
What would animated films, they always are trying to push stuff, and it can be very loosely based. What'd you get out of it with that decision he made?
I don't know if this is like what the whole thing was about, but it felt very, when he goes down with the knife and he looks into the guy's eyes, and you can see on his face, like he doesn't want to.
Yes.
But he hardens his heart and does it anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's the important part of this. The rest of it is, ethereal almost.
Yeah, him coming to the terms of that.
Right. But that is the core part of this short is...
He feels the burden of his actions.
I think it's more than that. It's
the
like
lives he took.
He knows he's wrong.
Right.
And I think what they're trying to say is like probably most people who were committing violent acts like this probably knew they were wrong.
Right.
Anybody who commits an act like that, especially when you're so close to somebody, looking at them, you are making a choice that maybe you can justify it for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
But, whether you were on his side or whether you're on the other side, you still have to justify the decision to take the life.
Right. Because you're still taking a human life. And the cool thing that I think this film is trying to capture, to summarize kind of what you're saying, is that he is dealing with the burden of taking life, knowing deep inside that he knows it's wrong, and he does have to face that in the moments before he himself dies. He has to face that burden, and it's an interesting way of showing it. It's almost like a spirit or like a version of death from the people he's been killing. Kind of, and almost shows in a picture over here. Before I want to bring this up, this is the character in this moment right before he gets killed, right?
Yeah.
What do you see in that face? It's almost just like pity, the way they designed that scene.
Maybe.
In this kind of white void space right before he dies. I almost felt like this spiritual death being almost looked at him, even though they're in a sea of bodies that he's killed. It kind of felt like he just felt pity on this guy.
I don't know if it was pity. I didn't get pity, but maybe it was. I only watched it once. But yes, it definitely, that he was in the sea of bodies of like native people that were killed by him and other people that he was with.
I think all of this, if I were to get really super nerdy with it,
go for it.
I would say the whole thing is he's already dying. He's got several arrows in his back. His shoulder's been cleaved open. This is a hallucination that he's having of justice that he knows should come to him.
Yes.
He sees a dark being that looms before him the same way he loomed before the other man. He falls into a bright place, which he feels like at the beginning maybe he should be here. There's that badge of like valor. Right.
So what you're saying is like his sins of killing the people are taking him away to death.
No, I'm saying this is all rational.
Yeah.
This is him working through the rationale in a hallucination.
Yeah.
He's like, I die, this creature kills me, I die. I go to this place where I get justice. What is justice? It's bright, it's in this nice room, it's this valor badge.
Yeah.
Right.
And then as he contemplates further, he realizes this is justice. All of these people that I've killed.
Yeah.
Not this. He throws it away. He sees who he's been killing. Right? And he sees the same thing that person he killed saw.
Yeah.
With him. And it makes me almost wonder, what did that native man see? Did he see a similar vision? right?
Maybe.
It's almost like a cycle.
Yeah, is it cyclical?
Because at the very end, I mean, he's getting killed in front of a tree, just
He's
like
sitting on a tree,
by a native person. That's just
with,
mirroring the situation.
with the same knife.
With the same knife, and he kills the native person and walks off. They kill him and sort of walk off.
Right.
It's I see it more as his kind of coming to terms with what he did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and what justice is there for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's the knife in the stomach.
Yeah.
And also kind of just look at it as a commentary for history, native and colonial history. It's almost like it almost does just represent this circular pattern of unnecessary killing, of unnecessary violence, where it's just like we kill them and then they kill us. And it almost shows us that picture. And that's kind of an interesting but simple concept to just show it. Same atmosphere, same in front of a tree, same scenario. It's just like back and forth. And it's like a circle, a pattern that doesn't stop,
Outside of the story that it's telling, it was visually good. I know you said it was
a lot of cool colors.
The frame was a little bit weird, but
it felt like 9 frames
the colors
a second
were good.
Or something.
We talked about this before the podcast about how just it's becoming almost a trend now to do these, very almost indie style animated films, short animated films, and that was ultimately what this was. Another Love, Death, and Robots.
I love seeing. I'm glad that it's not just Love, Death, and Robots that's doing this.
Yeah, it's a lot of people
that we're seeing
it's a trend
so
now.
much animation. I mean, look at all this animation.
Yeah.
Did you?
Oh,
I didn't.
It was just The Rock as Maui.
yeah, that screen culture doing that all the time. Screen culture is really trolling everybody.
Are people watching screen culture
I don't
stuff?
know.
I think they
know.
are. You look at their views, bro.
Yeah.
They'll throw up The Rock as Moana. It's just like a fake trailer, and it has like 14 million views.
But I mean, this frame, him and his boys are there. They kill this guy, and then the last frame, it's a similar image. It's a native person with his boys.
Yeah.
And they stab him.
Right.
I think it's more.
No.
Oh.
He's got stabbed.
Maybe he's not with his boys.
Yeah.
He is with his boys.
Yeah.
And see the color contrast in the beginning. It was very
Yeah.
red, evening colors, and now it's dark colors.
Yeah. Well, it's all
red.
it's pinks versus blues.
Is there one
Reds and pinks
of the
versus
native against the tree, kind of lonesome?
this guy right
Go forward a little.
Just a tiny bit.
Or is it him against the tree?
here at the beginning?
Yeah.
Like,
There's
you have the
a color
reflection in the
contrast where it's red behind the tree, and then at the end it's blue behind the tree.
Mm.
Let's see.
No.
No, I just dislike that scene.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't think we get a wide. Wait, yeah, we do. So there's blue in the
Yeah.
tree.
But as it zooms in on him, it sort of fades into the night scenes.
Right. And there's a lot of cool shading. They almost did like brush strokes, through the animation style. And it's just a wild, really beautiful short film. It's only 5 minutes and 30 seconds with credits. So you can watch this right now. Just look up Yana, Yona, short film on YouTube.
Yeah.
It'll come right up.
But I mean, they kind of tell the same story in spirit. So
Yeah,
well, I
you
was
can-
gonna say this felt like the campment scene in Hidalgo.
yeah.
Hidalgo. Which? Oh! I know what you mean. At the very beginning.
Yeah, when he goes, he delivers the letter, and then he leaves, and then he comes back, and everybody's dead because
You realize that
he-
the letter was like orders for them
Orders
to kill
to
the
kill.
people.
Yeah.
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 Trail of Tears stuff.
That's
All the Trail of
that's a
Tears
dark
stuff is
period
dark,
of time,
yeah.
and everyone came out of that who lived just emotionally burdened for life.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I
of
mean,
it.
they told it really well in Hidalgo because his mom was Yeah.
Oh yeah, his mom was half Cherokee because he can speak the language.
Yes.
There's a lot of cool details about Hidalgo. I
It's
forget.
fun movie. It's a fun movie.
Freaking and then
Viggo
the-
Mortensen.
Viggo Mortensen.
Did you guys watch?
Yeah.
Viggo was on that Ron Howard film about saving the kids out of the they were trapped in a cave.
Was it was like 13 something?
Yes, 13 Lives.
I heard that was
No.
really good.
I watched it a
didn't.
while ago, dude. And Vigo's like the main diver, and he plays one of the main divers because the real life story is the SEALs
Yeah.
couldn't get him out.
Mm-hmm.
They had to get trained divers because they
Somebody
had to
with
dive.
thumbs.
What? Oh, seals don't have thumbs.
Yeah.
And what they had to do was they had to actually, because the whole trip, the whole dive, it was 5 hours of underwater cave
That's
travel.
crazy.
Oh, cave travel.
Cave travel.
Yikes.
Very tight. So they have their oxygen tanks and everything. And the
Oh,
problem
yeah, I
is
couldn't watch
you
that.
Tough
can't
watch.
and the
couldn't
crazy
watch
thing
that.
is you cannot put a mask on a kid, because even the SEALs try to do it. They would freak out and panic, and they would use all their oxygen, and then you would be in the middle of a cave and you can't get out because you're stuck in this 5 hour travel period at a decent pace. So what they had to do, in order to get the kids out, they had to sedate them, then put on the mask, and they're dragging kids who are passed out by drugs 5 hours
5
through these
hours
tunnels.
through caves.
13 kids. A group of 4 guys.
Wow.
13 kids.
I
They did it over the course of like 4 days, I think.
was he. I bet
Or
you
like
they,
2 weeks
You know,
or
they
something
have their
crazy like that.
their radios talking to each other as they're traveling
No, they don't have radios
when they're diving.
when they're diving. They don't have radios. In
Oh.
fact, they're actually not even like doing it in groups. They're like one person's going, letting them get aways, and then the next person's going, letting them get aways.
Well,
So
he probably had to. Vigo's probably like, little brother.
dude, you gotta watch it.
And
Ron Howard
whispering.
directed it, and so it's it has kind of like this man on the street with a camera style to the filmmaking. You gotta watch it, man. It's
Okay.
really freaking
Maybe.
good.
What is it called?
13 Lives. I think it's on
13
Amazon
Lives.
Prime.
Okay. Well, watch that and also check us out on Monday nights. Monday all weekend.
Yeah, for the lives
Lives.
on the studio channel.
Video.